Howdy, 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 my name's Anachi Sasuke. Welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. In the last episode, we covered, let's see here. The Birthworm, the Hungry Box, the Labyrinth, the Matchbox Full of Winter, and the Startling Statue. And in this episode, we're going to be covering the Tissue-Fusing Virus, the Meteorological Dog, the Boomerang, Thunderhorn, and the Biological Disinformation Campaign. So, as I said in the Let's Play Hive Swap Friend Sim, this is going to be the only episode of SCP that happens this week because I'm just trying to hurl out as many videos as I can on the 4th of July before it goes back to being really hot and before my vacation starts. Because the last couple days of the week, it's been 100 degrees in my bedroom, which is where I record at, and the next couple days of the week, I'm going to be on vacation. So, doing as much as I can on this single day where it's not death on one side and vacation on the other. Now then, let's check out this tissue-fusing virus. And thinking about it now, like I've said those words a few times, and for whatever reason, I thought it was referring to tissue paper, and now I'm realizing this is the SCP Foundation. It's probably talking about flesh. Yup! Yup! Just like in the Matrix. Subject in the early stages of 651 infection. As a matter of fact, you know what? Hold on. Let's see if I can find that picture from the Matrix. Matrix, Neo, Fuse Mouth. Let's see. As a matter of fact,
Tell me, Mr. Anderson, what good is a phone call if you're unable to speak?
okay, we saw that courtesy of Mr. Alex. Okay, cool. So, well, that just took us right out of that entry to do that, didn't it? So, it is Euclid. Subjects infected with 651 are to be kept and treated in the secure medical wing of Site Blank. Any secretions of 651 patients should be disposed of in the manner detailed in Protocol 9913B. Access to 651 patients by non-medical personnel is subject to O5 approval. Description: SCP-651 is a highly contagious, human-infecting viral genus that causes the fusion of soft tissues. Usually first affecting the distal extremities, the effects of 651 can be observed early in the form of webbing of the fingers and toes. 651 is spread to the entire body, fusing the subject's thighs and cubital fossa, I don't know what that is, and eventually causing the mouth, ears, eyes, nostrils, and anus to seal completely. Subjects surviving into the late stages are forced into a fetal position, the forehead eventually fusing with the knees. The fusion of tissues can be slowed, but not prevented, by the insertion of obstructions into the affected area. This can cause the infection to take effect on the area surrounding the object. If left unattended, foreign objects can become enclosed in flesh. If cut open, fused tissues will reform and heal in the usual manner for human wounds. Notable cases of 651 infection. Blank blank blank. With help of the SCP medical personnel, 51-year-old blankety blank survived 651 infection for 3 years and 8 months. They were unable to communicate for 16 months prior to his death due to the complete fusion of limbs and gingiva. A tracheotomy was performed to allow Blank to breathe during this time. Blank died on blankety blank blank from internal hemorrhaging resulting from the obstruction of feces caused by the closing of the rectum. 16-year-old Ella Pugh suffocated 8 months after infection due to the closing of the larynx after surgically locking her own mouth open with a homemade head brace. Blank blank blank. Blank blank contracted 651 7 months into pregnancy and died after 3 months. Autopsy revealed that the unborn child had fused with the sides of the uterus. Yeah. So, next up is the meteorological dog. Is the dog a weatherman or is it something terrible? Well, it looks safe. And this is in a rare moment of silence. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that the dog is a weatherman against its will. SCP-652 is to be kept in standard domestic animal facilities. The room requires basic furnishings for 652 and its handler, bedding, food, water, and so on. It and its handler are permitted to roam the facility grounds at will. Personnel who come into contact with 652 are not permitted to wear heavy boots. 652 is badly frightened by such boots and anyone wearing them. For the same reason, personnel who come into contact with 652 are not permitted to grow beards. 652's vocalizations are to be recorded and preserved for analysis. Special notice be taken of any mentions of the phrase ash cloud, not ass cloud, oh, that's a whole other thing, hurricane, and or radiation. SCP-652 presents as a neutered male dog of the Basset Hound breed. Bone growth analysis indicates the subject is approximately 3 years old. Subject appears to be physically normal beyond 4 significant abnormalities. Subject has a tattoo on its belly in the shape of the Marshall Carter and Dark logo. The tattoo was likely applied in the dog's infancy. X-rays of the subject reveal several poorly healed skull fractures and broken ribs, suggesting extreme physical abuse. Subject's jaw muscles are well developed, above that of a normal dog of this breed. However, bite force is in line with what is expected of a dog of this size. This abnormality is likely to be a direct result of abnormality number 4 below. Subject's larynx is grossly distorted. X-ray examination shows significant diversion from expected size and shape. It's unclear whether this is the result of genetic engineering or of surgery. This distortion is believed to be linked to its behavioral anomaly. 652's behavioral anomaly is its ability to produce human speech instead of barking or other standard canine vocalizations. Subject constantly gibbers phrases in at least 34 human languages, although 5 of the languages have not been identified yet. Although 5 of the languages have not been identified yet, analysis of the other 29 languages, see document G for a list of identified languages, indicates that 652 is constantly making meteorological predictions for various locations worldwide. These predictions have been found to be 100% accurate for those locations which have been able to be identified. The predictions have no obvious connection with any external stimuli. While it can be assumed that 652 is aware of its own behavior, it does not appear to be under the subject's control. Quality and clarity of vocalization is dependent on 652's physical condition. Speech is muted and mumbled while the subject is sleeping, garbled while the subject is eating or drinking, and agitated and staccato when the subject is excited or afraid. Subject's voice is low in pitch and has a rather limited vocal range. Staff consistently refer to it as unsettling. While 652's unusual larynx is the most obvious link to the subject's constant vocal activity, a basic knowledge of speech production tells us that simply changing an animal's larynx will not necessarily allow it to make sounds similar to human speech. Indeed, comparative biology reveals that human and canid larynx structures are actually quite similar. 652's larynx, on the other hand, appears to have no correlation to either. History. 652 was recovered during a raid on a Marshall Carter and Dark office in blank. It was found in a shipping crate bearing the indications of having been recently delivered by a redacted National Postal Service with an invalid return address. At the time of the raid, a Marshall Carter and Dark operative was in the process of composing a letter regarding 652. The operative died while resisting capture, and the letter, document 652 and 41, was retrieved from her typewriter. Document G, list of identified languages spoken by 652. Albanian, Armenian, Basque, Bulgarian, Danish, Dutch, English, Estonian, Finnish, French, German, Greek, Hausa, Hungarian, Icelandic, Italian, Japanese, Kannada, Khmer, Lithuanian, Malagasy, Polish, Russian, Romanian, Spanish, Swahili, Tagalog, Urdu, and Vietnamese. Incomplete letter from Marshall Carter and Dark operative redacted to redacted regarding 652. Dear Colonel Redacted, I regret that you were unsatisfied with your purchase. However, it is scarcely our fault that you misinterpreted the catalog description of the item. That said, I must remind you once again that all sales are final. We provide our clients with unique and unparalleled experiences. We do not provide refunds, regardless of whether or not you return your purchase. One would hope that you would have learned this by now. Because we value your business and because we regret the unfortunate incident subsequent to your last year's purchase of data expunged, I have been authorized to repurchase the item from you. We will pay you redacted in cash or offer you twice the amount as credit on your next purchase. Although this is less than 10% of your original purchase price, the end of document. Okay. The boomerang. Does it come back? Well, it's safe. And stuck in the ground. And rainbow. Dang, if I had done this the day I was supposed to, it would have still been Pride Month. And it would have been like rainbows for rainbow boomerangs. It's even the shape of a rainbow. Anyway, 653 is to be kept in a securely locked box in storage room B at Site Blank. The keys to the box are to be in the possession of Researcher Blank. Removal of it requires at least 2 armed guards. If skin contact is made with 653 outside of experimental conditions, the affected individual is to be separated from 653 and taken in for questioning, or testing. Test subjects are to be kept under sedation in order to prevent self-injury while attempting to reacquire 653. Due to many individuals having become obsessed with 653 prior to containment, addendum, people may attempt to enter Site Blank in order to regain possession of it. These individuals are to be apprehended and brought into Site Blank for testing. SCP-653 is a plastic, multicolored boomerang measuring 25 centimeters from tip to tip. 653's shape is the typical returning boomerang, however it is more durable than its makeup would indicate. I am half expecting this to be a Dr. Wondertainment dude. If a person makes skin contact with it, they will instantly become obsessed with it and will not allow it to leave their possession, which is counterproductive to what boomerangs are for. After approximately 48 hours, they will develop a condition similar to magnetoception, becoming aware of 653's approximate position at all times. Testing has shown that removing 653 from the subject does not affect the rate at which the condition develops. Once the subject is aware of where it is, they will be compelled to throw it as they would a typical boomerang. Instead of returning, however, it will travel large distances away from the subject. Once it has been thrown, the subject will immediately begin to seek it out. Aided by their magnetoception, the subject will invariably be able to locate it. During the time that 653 is being sought out by a subject, it is possible that another person will pick it up and become similarly obsessed with it. This has led to an unknown number of individuals actively seeking SCP-653. It came into possession of the Foundation when Agent Gilson reported finding a boomerang stuck in the ground at site blank. She took a photograph of it, pictured above, but did not turn the boomerang in. 2 days later, she was reported missing from site blank, and when contact was eventually established by her handheld transceiver, she refused to return to site blank. Her reason for this was, "I've just gone out to get my boomerang back." Agents S and Anchor were dispatched to follow her as this boomerang could potentially be an SCP. 9 days later, Agent Gilson found the boomerang left roughly 17 kilometers away from the town of Redacted, at which point Agents S and Anchor were ordered to engage and retrieve the boomerang. Agent Gilson was killed, and Agent Anchor accidentally made skin contact with it, became very possessive of it, threatening Agent S to stay away. Agent S was then ordered to retrieve the boomerang and was forced to eliminate Agent Anchor to recover it. The boomerang was then safely brought back to site blank so its properties could be established. Addendum 1. At 11/4 blank, so that's either April 11th or November 4th, I don't know. That June date doesn't help either. Although it might, if it says 06, it's probably June 9th. 9:43 p.m. an individual was apprehended attempting to gain entry into site blank. The individual reacted very aggressively when being stopped. He has been taken in for a study to see the extent of its long-term effects. At the time of writing, June 9th to that blank year, 7 other individuals of varying age and ethnicity have been apprehended attempting to enter site blank and gain hold of the boomerang. Okay. Thunderhorn. It's Euclid, and it appears to be some form of fish. A habitat has been constructed for Thunderhorn in sub-level 12 of Sector 28. The chamber is to be kept at a temperature of approximately -5 degrees Celsius, and salt water is to be circulated throughout the aquatic enclosure. Chamber walls outside of the aquatic enclosure have been plated with insulating ceramic composite. A staff of handlers composed of security clearance level 1 personnel and headed by staff marine biologist Dr. Earls work in shifts of 3 and 8 hour rotations to maintain feeding and medical examination schedules. Cleaning of the habitat is assigned to standard sub-level custodial staff to whom personal plexiglass shielding is allotted in case of incident. SCP-654, colloquially referred to as Thunderhorn by its handlers, is a male narwhal, Monodon monoceros. That is a really cool scientific name, visually disparate from others of its species, and only in that its characteristic spiral tusk has grown in a clockwise helix from the jaw, rather than the counterclockwise helix found in all other examined narwhals to date. The other, notably more significant, unique quality of the Thunderhorn is its ability to emit sudden bursts of electrostatic discharge from the apex of its tusk. This discharge is reminiscent of lightning and is accompanied by a loud crack of sound, as lightning is wont to do. While not particularly accurate, the tusk can be used to direct the discharge, and the Thunderhorn had previously been observed in the wild making use of this ability. The mechanism, heretofore referred to as the Stevens effect, after its discoverer, SCP Marine researcher now head of SCP-654 Studies, Dr. Blank Stevens, had been adapted for use in hunting tarp seals. Thunderhorn being so bold as to uncharacteristically attack adults of the species and having developed a taste for the cooked flesh. Discovered by the northern shore of Hudson Bay in late 1982, Thunderhorn had apparently been separated from its pod by clashing ice floes. Current speculation is that, unable to escape the Hudson Strait, it had become frustrated and tried to clear a path through the closed passage. Conservation officers operating in Polar Bear Provincial Park had documented an unseasonal lightning strike and had been sent to quash a possible forest fire. Having found only a large amount of strangely melted ice and the charred remains of 3 polar bears, an incident report was filed, triggering an investigation by Sector 28 Northern operatives upon submission. A full sweep of the bay was ordered until Thunderhorn was discovered. After a short corralling, it was sedated, placed into a porpoise stretcher, and airlifted to a park landing strip. From there, it was transported by privately rented jets dated for the duration of the flight to Sector 28, where it was held in the sub-level 13 flooded cavern until its habitat could be constructed. Addendum A, pod migration. While tracking the pod Thunderhorn had belonged to determine whether similar mutations had presented themselves, researchers Robertson, Jones, and Voth discovered that Hudson Bay is not in the pod's usual migratory path. Aside from the one recorded instance, it had carefully avoided the strait, most likely to avoid the conflicting ice flows. B, extent of damage. After a considerable length of time in containment, it had been determined that Thunderhorn had no natural protection against its own ability, having caused itself harm several times thus far. Severe burns on and around the dorsal areas are untreatable, as Thunderhorn now responds violently to anyone except for the feeding crew, including Dr. Earls, and even then only long enough for feeding. Considerable damage to the containment area has also been noted. Shortening or extraction of the tusk has been proposed. Note: Thunderhorn most likely avoided personal harm in the wild by hunting from a distance. If a larger containment facility can be provided, these problems should cease. Dr. Stevens. Note: Dr. Stevens' objections have been noted and overruled. Creation of a larger facility will require more resources than currently available. If difficulties persist, extraction will be considered. Director Menzies. B1 follow-up report. Treatment of Thunderhorn made possible by use of sedation, porpoise stretcher, and small mobile crane. Veterinary crew have discovered significant damage to the underside of its fluke. Cause unknown, but suspected to be self-inflicted. Prolonged sedation and bathing with enteral feeding is suggested to allow recovery. Dr. Earls. Note: upon further investigation, fluke damage has been identified as bite damage, most likely from another tooth cetacean. Not currently known how this went unnoticed during initial transport, and investigation pending. Researcher Jones and Voth. Photograph of Thunderhorn prior to capture and transportation to Sector 28. Photograph of Thunderhorn prior to capture and transportation to Sector 28. And that brings us to SCP-655, Biological Disinformation Campaign. I didn't mean to open that as its own file, or own window. There we go. It's Euclid and it appears to be a bird, but it's probably not a bird. Site 731 has been established at the premises of 655. Personnel are advised that due to chronic political instability in the regime of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, no recognition of Site 731 as a Foundation asset exists at a national level. Site 731's activities occur under the auspices of Krustfeld Pharmaceuticals GmbH, a Foundation front organization, and the facility is to maintain cover as a tropical infectious disease research outpost. Site 731's security protocols are set at Code Green, and security personnel are to be attired and equipped as members of a mid-sized private military contractor. Subsequent to the events of July 29, 2002, see Incident Report 65548 for details. Site 731 security personnel must receive specific authorization from the Level 4 Central African Affairs Coordinator prior to actively engaging armed groups approaching the security perimeter of 655. All 655A specimens are to be cataloged and observed for a minimum of 2 weeks when possible. At the discretion of the site director, specimens may either be held for observation indefinitely after this initial period, or euthanized, autopsied, and preserved in the biological archives. SCP-655 is an 18 by 20 by 4 meter windowless structure within a complex of buildings located approximately 35 kilometers north-northeast of Kisangani, Democratic Republic of the Congo. Kisangani? Okay. This complex was originally known as the Stanleyville Imperial Biology Institute and was established by Belgian Congo colonial authorities in 1898. The complex housing 655 was coterminous at the time of its establishment with the now defunct cobalt mine. It is the site of an anomalous phenomenon. At random intervals, which to date have been observed to be between a range of 2 months to 11 years, an organism of the kingdom Animalia will spontaneously appear within 655. These organisms are collectively known as A. A appear upon initial visual inspection to be typical specimens of a variety of animals. Most specimens observed have fallen under the Chordatus phylum. However, mollusks, arthropods, and echinoderms have been observed on a less frequent basis. What's an echinoderm? Oh! It's a starfish. Specimens of A will, however, exhibit radically different behavioral and biological characteristics than other observed members of their species. Invariably, MRI examination, CT scans, ultrasound imaging, and dissection of A specimens reveals biological structures not occurring in what species a specimen appears to be. These have included a specimen of giant hagfish with a lung-based respiration system, a Nile crocodile specimen entirely lacking in any discernible structures associated with digestion, a Homo sapiens specimen with the entirety of its neural tissue located in a cavity in its right thigh, and an instance of a blue-winged kookaburra exhibiting a circulatory system completely lacking in blood vessels and arteries. Crocodilus Niloticus, and Apatratus Goliath, and Dacelo. So, since containment was established at Site 731 in 1961, researchers have documented 172 instances of A. Over the approximately 6 decades of Foundation control of 655, with the exception of Incident 21, no species have been observed that was not at the time known to the contemporary scientific establishment. This has been corroborated by the appearance of a Conus dundani specimen, a variety of cone snail, in 1984, 3 years after being first described in scientific records, and a Lasiurus ibinis, hairy-tailed bat, specimen appearing 18 months after its initial description in 1994. Recovery log. I wonder what the deal is with that tiger. 655 came to the Foundation's attention after several partially substantiated reports in the Congolese media of a non-communicative man with no identification, clothing, or possession of any kind wandering into the outskirts of Kisangani. The man, later designated SCP-655-A1, died of unexplained causes soon after being taken into custody by the local police force. A subsequent medical examination revealed 2 vestigial limbs in A1's abdominal cavity, along with the heart and lungs. The digestive system was in turn found to be located in its thoracic cavity. Foundation personnel monitoring the region intercepted the reports filed by the Kisangani Coroner's Office and initiated information suppression protocols. A subsequent investigation of A1's origins led to Discovery 655 and the establishment of containment. Upon establishment of initial containment, Foundation personnel discovered that the site of 655, while in a state of decay consistent with structures abandoned for several decades, appeared to be undisturbed by human intrusion since the last documented activity of the Stanleyville Imperial Biology Institute in 1919, despite the presence of valuable raw materials at the site. Foundation staff at the time attributed this to the research facility's reputation with the local population. Institute staff appear to have systematically destroyed all documentation related to activities taking place at the 655 site before abandoning it in 1919. The following materials were recovered upon establishment of containment. A reinforced secondary door made of wrought iron installed over the entrance of 655, 5 barrels of calcium carbonate, 15 wooden beds in various states of disrepair, 3 bookcases each accommodating an average of 80 volumes, 8 sets of iron manacles and chains, a mahogany desk, 2 examination tables, 2 Springfield Model 1892-99 .30 to 40 crack caliber rifles, a flexible wire surgical saw, and 3 flower pots. Inspection of the area surrounding Site 731 revealed 4 mass graves believed to date from 1900 to 1917. These graves contain skeletal remains from a variety of animals. However, due to the apparent systematic dismemberment of the organisms interred in these graves, precise number of individuals and species are impossible to ascertain. No anomalous properties have been associated with these remains at this time. Incident report. Oh, it's an alien. Low 4 eyes only. Well, I've got glasses, so I guess that counts. Haha! August 10th, 1978, a specimen of Homo ignotus, hereafter A21, manifested in 655. This is the first and only observed instance of a life form not officially documented by the mainstream scientific community appearing within 655. In contrast to 3 prior incidents on file involving similar specimens, 21 exhibited behavior interpreted by researchers as emotional distress, a trait heretofore unobserved in H. ignotus. Despite a state comparable to fear or terror and being highly agitated, A21 displayed none of the self-defense mechanisms common to its species. In addition, it was either unable or unwilling to enter the theorized perception/reality shifting state documented elsewhere by Foundation staff. Under orders from Site Director Blank, the 2-week observation period was waived in light of past experience with H. ignotus specimens. After no deviation in the subject's behavior at that time consisting of huddling in the furthest corner of 655 and trembling was observed for 4 hours, A21 was terminated by a small arms fire by security staff. An autopsy was performed, the results of which were transmitted to Overwatch Command. The final autopsy report remains a level 5 security document at this time. Before scheduled incineration could occur at 7 AM on August 11th, the remains of A21 were somehow transferred outside of Foundation custody. Despite standard security measures taken at the Site 731 morgue, no physical evidence remained of A21 when technicians inspected the refrigerated holding container. Security footage throughout the facility did not document any intruders or unauthorized entry into the morgue. Well, that's strange, and I wonder what H. ignotus is. I'm sure it's not actually real, but I might as well Google it and see what happens. let's see. It's mentioned again in SCP 2003, so in some months to a year, we'll see that again. But in any case, that about does it for this episode. And the next one we'll be covering... let's see. Home Edition, Death Predicting Man, Bot Flies, Communal Avian Intelligence, and the Earthen Womb. Which sounds like it's similar to the Birth Worm, and I hope to God it's not. So, this has been Anachi Sasuke. This is episode 140 of Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. If you liked it, a like and subscribe will be groovy. If you didn't, you need to do either one of those things, and I will see you all in the next one. Later!